The AI didn't hesitate. It played every frequency on the ancient score simultaneously, including the ones carved specifically to never reach human ears. Within seconds, Dr. Elena Vasquez stumbled backward from her console in a Barcelona research lab, blood dripping from her nose. The spectrograph was spiking in frequency ranges that shouldn't exist in music. For 200 years, this ceramic notation sat buried in a Spanish cave, waiting, not for a musician, for a machine. Because whoever carved these 22 tones into clay knew something we are only now beginning to understand. Some of these frequencies were never designed to be heard. They were designed to be felt in parts of the brain that language cannot reach. And on March 14th, 2024, an artificial intelligence finally played the full sequence, unlocking sounds that human hands could never reproduce. What came out of those speakers sent 3 researchers out of the room and left the rest, questioning everything they thought they knew. About ancient civilizations, the frequency isn't meant for human ears, but now that it's been released, there's no putting it back. The ceramic fragment had been sitting in storage at the Universidad de Cantabria since its discovery in 2019. Archaeologists initially cataloged it as decorative pottery from a Neolithic ritual site in the Cantabrian Mountains. It took 4 years before Dr. Marcus Chen, an ethnomusicologist visiting from UCLA, recognized the markings for what they actually were: not decorations, not writing, musical notation. 22 distinct tones arranged in a sequence that matched no known scale in the historical record. Here's the catch: no human musician could play it. The intervals between the notes were impossibly precise, some separated by fractions of a hertz that the human hand simply cannot reproduce on any instrument. Chen spent 18 months trying to find a performer who could even approximate the piece. Every attempt sounded wrong, incomplete, like hearing a symphony through a wall. That's when Vasquez suggested feeding the notation into an AI sound engine capable of generating frequencies down to 1/100th of a hertz. Let the machine play what human hands could not. The morning of the playback, 7 researchers gathered in that Barcelona acoustics lab. By the end of the session, 3 had left the room. One reported sudden pressure behind his eyes that lasted for hours. Another described what she could only call grief without a source. Vasquez herself couldn't stop her hands from shaking for the rest of the day. The frequency that filled that laboratory wasn't music. It was something much older. And the question that now haunts everyone involved is devastatingly simple. Who carved this score, and why did they include sounds that humans were never supposed to hear? To understand what Vasquez's team unleashed, you have to go back to the cave itself. The site, known locally as Cueva del Resonador, sits deep in a limestone formation about 40 kilometers from Santander. Spelunkers discovered it in 2018, but excavation didn't begin until the following year. What archaeologists found inside rewrote everything we thought we knew about Neolithic acoustic engineering. And get this, the cave isn't natural, at least not entirely. Someone carved it. The main chamber shows clear evidence of intentional shaping. Walls smoothed and curved in ways that create a nearly perfect acoustic resonance at 110 hertz. That number matters. It's not that simple though, because 110 hertz keeps showing up in ancient sites all over the world, and scientists are only now beginning to understand why. Dr. Paolo Di Bertolis, an archaeoacoustics researcher who studied the Hypogeum of Malta, documented this phenomenon extensively. The Hypogeum is an underground temple complex carved into rock over 5,000 years ago. Inside, there's a small chamber called the Oracle Room. If a man with a deep voice speaks into a specific niche in the wall, the entire 3-story complex vibrates. The resonant frequency? Exactly 110 hertz. The same frequency appears at Newgrange in Ireland, a passage tomb older than the pyramids. Researchers from Princeton conducted studies there in the early 2000s, playing calibrated tones inside the chamber and measuring the acoustic response. The structure amplifies 110 hertz with startling efficiency. Stand in the right spot and hum at that pitch, and the walls seem to hum back at you. Here's the deal. Brain imaging studies have shown that 110 hertz does something extraordinary to the human mind. Dr. Ian Cook at UCLA used fMRI scans to monitor brain activity in subjects exposed to this specific frequency. Activity in the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for language, logic, and self-awareness, actually decreased. Meanwhile, the regions associated with emotion, spatial awareness, and spiritual experience lit up dramatically. Basically, 110 Hz quiets the thinking mind and opens the feeling mind. It's a biological shortcut to altered states of consciousness. The ceramic score from Cueva del Resonador uses 110 Hz as its foundation, but the AI revealed something that human performers had completely missed. As the piece progresses, the frequency drops lower and lower, until it moves into territory that changes everything. The human ear detects sound between roughly 20 Hz and 20,000 Hz. Anything below 20 Hz is called infrasound. We can't hear it, but our bodies absolutely feel it. And that's putting it lightly. Infrasound research has a strange history. In the 1960s, a French scientist named Vladimir Gavreau accidentally discovered that certain low frequencies could cause intense physical discomfort. His lab had been experiencing mysterious episodes of nausea and disorientation. After months of investigation, Gavreau traced the problem to a malfunctioning ventilation fan, producing infrasound at 7 Hz. The frequency was completely inaudible, but it was making his entire research team sick. But here's the deal. More recent studies have shown that infrasound around 18 to 19 Hz causes something even stranger. At this frequency, the human eyeball itself begins to resonate. The vibration is microscopic, but it's enough to cause visual disturbances, peripheral shadows, the sense of movement where nothing is moving. Researcher Vic Tandy at Coventry University proposed that this explains a significant percentage of reported ghost sightings. People aren't seeing spirits, they're seeing the artifacts of acoustic vibration in their own eyes. When Vasquez's AI played the full ceramic score, the spectrograph revealed infrasonic components as low as 7 Hz woven throughout the composition. The ancient composer hadn't just written music, they had written a program for inducing hallucinations. And, get this, the score also contains frequencies at the opposite end of the spectrum, ultrasound, tones above 20,000 Hz that bats and dolphins use for navigation. Why would an ancient musician include notes that no human could possibly hear? Some researchers think these were signals meant for animals, possibly calling specific creatures into the cave as part of a ritual. Others have proposed something more unsettling. High-frequency sound can affect the physical environment in subtle ways, causing water vapor to condense, creating pressure differentials, generating the sensation of temperature changes in an enclosed space. The ultrasonic elements of the score may have been designed to manufacture an atmosphere, a thin mist, a sudden chill, something that would make the experience feel genuinely supernatural. The ceramic score wasn't music in any sense we understand. It was acoustic technology. And whoever created it understood frequencies that Western science didn't formally discover until the 20th century. Now, let's talk about the scale itself. Modern Western music divides the octave into 12 notes. It's the system everything from Bach to modern pop is built on. But the ceramic score uses 22 tones, nearly twice as many notes crammed into the same sonic space. These microtones are so close together that untrained ears can barely distinguish them. It's not that simple though, because microtonal music isn't some random ancient experiment. It's a sophisticated system that still exists today in Indian classical music, where the octave is traditionally divided into 22 intervals called shrutis. The fact that a 3,200-year-old European cave score uses the same division suggests something that makes historians deeply uncomfortable. Either this knowledge developed independently on opposite sides of the world, or there was contact and transmission of ideas that predates everything we think we know about ancient civilizations. Dr. Chen has been cautious about this implication publicly, but in a private correspondence later leaked to an acoustic research forum, he wrote something remarkable. Either we're looking at the most extraordinary coincidence in the history of music, or we're looking at evidence of a global acoustic tradition that has been completely erased from the historical record. Basically, the 22-tone scale creates effects that 12-tone music simply cannot produce. When the AI played the score, the interference patterns between microtones generated binaural beats, rhythmic pulses that don't exist in the original tones, but emerge when multiple frequencies interact in the ear. Binaural beats have been shown to alter brainwave patterns, pushing the mind into states associated with meditation, trance, or heightened focus. The ancient composer knew this. They designed the piece to literally rewire the listener's brain in real time. Here's the catch. Some of the markings on the ceramic aren't notes at all. Chen identified what appear to be instructions for breathing patterns and physical movements. The music was meant to be accompanied by specific bodily actions, a combination of tone, breath, and motion that together would create something far beyond simple entertainment. This was sound medicine, or perhaps something else entirely. Since the playback in Barcelona, the ceramic score has become the subject of intense institutional interest. And not all of it is academic. Dr. Vasquez's original paper on the discovery was accepted by the Journal of Archaeological Science, then withdrawn under circumstances she has declined to discuss publicly. The ceramic fragment itself has been transferred from the Universidad de Cantabria to an undisclosed research facility. 3 of the 7 researchers present for the original playback have signed non-disclosure agreements with organizations they will not name. When contacted for comment, Dr. Chen responded with a single sentence that raises more questions than it answers. Some frequencies aren't meant to be played with modern technology. Here's the deal: we live in a world that believes progress moves in a straight line, primitive to sophisticated, ignorance to knowledge. But the ceramic score from Cueva del Resonador suggests that ancient people possessed an understanding of acoustic physics we're only now beginning to recover. They didn't have oscilloscopes or frequency analyzers. They had their ears and their bodies, and they used them to decode the hidden language of vibration. They knew sound isn't just entertainment. It's a force that can shape consciousness, alter perception, and connect human beings to something larger than themselves. They encoded that knowledge in ceramic and hid it in a cave, as if waiting for someone to develop the technology to finally play it back. Now that an AI has done exactly that, the question isn't what the score contains. We know what it contains. Infrasound that triggers hallucinations, ultrasound that changes the atmosphere, binaural patterns that rewire the brain, frequencies that were never meant for human ears, played by a machine that doesn't care about ancient warnings. The real question is why this knowledge was buried in the first place. What happened 3,200 years ago that made someone decide these frequencies should never be heard again? And what happens now that they have been? The cave is still there in the mountains of northern Spain. The walls are still shaped to resonate at 110 Hertz. And somewhere in a facility that doesn't officially exist, a ceramic fragment holds the code to sounds that were deliberately hidden from humanity for over 3 millennia. The AI played it anyway. The people who heard it say they've never been quite the same since. Maybe there's a reason our ancestors sealed this music in darkness. Maybe some frequencies once released can never be contained again. What do you think? Was this ancient knowledge buried to protect us or to control us? And if you had the chance to hear the full playback, would you press play? Drop your answer in the comments. If this discovery disturbed you as much as it disturbed the researchers in that Barcelona lab, hit subscribe. We're just getting started. The frequency is out there now, and something tells me we're not the only ones listening.